So hey everyone, welcome to our YouTube channel.
I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Sophia.
And this is Case 404, your go-to place for chilling true crime stories. If you're as obsessed with the dark and mysterious as we are, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a case.
Now, buckle up for today's story.
Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. Today we're looking into one of the most infamous, unsolved crimes in American history.
It's
the Black Dahlia.
Yeah, one that's fascinated people for generations.
Exactly.
A mystery shrouded in
Truly
Hollywood glamour and darkness.
Hollywood noir.
Exactly.
And really, I mean, this story's got it all. A beautiful young woman with Hollywood dreams cut down in her prime.
Mm-hmm.
Gruesome details, a massive investigation,
Yeah.
and decades of speculation. I mean, we're talking
bananas.
70 years later, and
That just won't crit.
people are still trying to figure out exactly
Yeah.
what happened to Elizabeth Short.
Mm.
So just to give everyone a quick overview, Elizabeth Short, also known as the Black Dahlia,
Yeah.
was a 22-year-old aspiring actress living in Los Angeles in the 1940s.
Mm-hmm.
On January 15th, 1947, her body was found in a vacant lot.
It was.
A horrific discovery. Her body was posed, severed at the waist, and she had been drained of all her blood.
Mm.
I mean, the details are really disturbing.
Yeah, and it just gets more...
They are.
They are.
They are. But before we get into all of that, why don't you walk us through the initial discovery of the body?
So, on that morning,
Yeah.
January 15th, a woman named Betty Bersinger was walking with her 3-year-old daughter through Leimert Park.
Okay.
And as they're walking through, she sees what she thinks is a mannequin
Oh, God.
lying in the grass. And as she got closer, she realized it wasn't a mannequin at all.
Oh, wow.
It was the body of Elizabeth Short,
I can't imagine.
brutally murdered.
Yeah, that just sends shivers down your spine.
Yeah.
To think that
It was a scene.
she had her young daughter with her, too.
Right. Unlike anything the LAPD had ever seen.
It was in broad daylight.
Yeah.
That just blows my mind. So the way that her body was displayed, this wasn't just a random act of violence. This was something much more calculated.
It was deliberate, and it was meant to send a message.
Yeah, and so the police immediately launch a massive investigation.
Right.
I mean, we're talking hundreds of officers,
Yeah.
thousands of man-hours
Yeah, it was huge.
poured into this case.
Yeah.
What were some of the early leads that they were following?
Well, initially they had very little to go on. No witnesses,
Yeah.
no obvious motive. And Elizabeth Short's personal life was, well, it was pretty complicated.
Right, she was young,
Mm-hmm.
she was beautiful, she had moved to Hollywood
Yeah.
to pursue her dreams.
Exactly. She was trying to make it as an actress. And in doing that, she met a lot of people. She had a wide social circle.
So that must have made it very difficult
Yeah.
to kind of narrow down any suspects.
It was a real challenge for investigators.
Because it's like, where do you even begin?
Right.
But then
Yeah.
you also have this media frenzy
Oh, yeah.
that erupts around this case. And, you know, the press gives Elizabeth Short this nickname,
The Black Dahlia.
the Black Dahlia.
And that name just took off.
And where did that come from?
Well, there are a couple of theories. Some say it was inspired by a film noir movie that was popular at the time called The Blue Dahlia. But regardless of its origin, the name stuck.
And really sort of fueled
It definitely added to the mystique.
the public's fascination
Mm-hmm.
with this case. I mean, it's such a evocative and almost kind of romantic
Right.
name. But it also kind of, I think, overshadows the brutality
Yeah, for sure.
of the crime. So as the investigation was going on, the police received a number of tips, and they followed up
A
on
lot of dead ends.
countless leads. But there was one tip in particular that really sent shockwaves through the city. And that was when the killer
Supposedly.
sent a package to the Los Angeles Examiner.
Yeah.
What was in the package?
Well, it contained some of Elizabeth Short's personal belongings, her birth certificate, a social security card,
Got it.
and an address book.
And so they
Clean.
had been carefully cleaned with gasoline,
With gasoline.
which, you know, just adds to the creepiness of
It
the
does
whole
seem-
thing.
Like, this is someone who's clearly
Trying to cover their tracks.
taunting the police and,
Yeah.
and just playing mind games.
Playing these mind games with the media and with the public.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's just chilling to think about what must have been going through the minds of the investigators at this point.
I mean, they were dealing with a killer who was not only ruthless, but also seemed to be enjoying the attention.
Right. And then on top of that, you have all these false confessions.
Oh, yeah.
Coming in.
People claiming to be the killer just to get their 15 minutes of fame. And that just muddied the waters even more for investigators.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild to think that even with all the resources they had at their disposal, they were unable to crack this case.
It's true.
So, after chasing down all these leads, the investigation eventually went cold. But then, decades later, a new theory emerged. And this one hit very close to home.
Too close to home.
It came from the son of one of the original suspects.
That's right.
Dr. George Hill Hodel. So tell us a little bit about Dr. Hodel.
Well, Dr. Hodel was a prominent physician in Los Angeles. He was wealthy, well-connected, and moved in some pretty elite circles.
But he also had a dark side.
Yeah, a very dark side.
And so how did he become a suspect in the Black Dahlia case?
Well, he was actually a suspect early on in the investigation. His name had come up, but there wasn't enough evidence at the time to really link him to the crime.
And then it was his own son.
Yeah, Steve Hodel, a former LAPD homicide detective himself, came to believe that his father was the killer.
That's incredible.
It's a wild story.
What led him to that conclusion?
Well, Steve Hodel started going through his father's belongings after his death, and he found some very disturbing things. Photographs that resembled Elizabeth Short.
Oh, wow.
Writings and poems that hinted at a dark and violent nature.
I mean, that's chilling.
Yeah, and even some possible connections to the crime scene.
So he really believed that his own father...
He was convinced.
...could have committed this horrific crime.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually wrote a book about it, right?
He did. He laid out all of his evidence and his theory in a book called Black Dahlia Avenger.
And that book sparked renewed interest in the case.
It definitely brought the case back into the public eye.
But I mean, even with all of Steve Hodel's research and the evidence that he uncovered, the case remains officially unsolved.
Yeah.
So what do you make of all this?
It's a case that really highlights the limitations of forensic science at the time.
Right.
But it also shows the power of obsession.
Because Steve Hodel dedicated years...
Yeah, he was relentless.
...of his life to trying to uncover the truth about his father.
And it's hard to say for sure if he ever found it.
Right. I mean, it's a fascinating theory.
It is. But it's just that.
Yeah, it's a theory.
It's a theory. So, the Black Dahlia case continues to be one of the most... enduring and talked about mysteries of all time.
Yeah.
What is it about this case that you think continues to captivate?
I think it's a combination of things.
Yeah.
The brutality of the crime, the mystery surrounding it, and the fact that it happened in Hollywood.
This land of glamour and dreams.
It's like this stark contrast between the dark reality and this sort of...
The facade.
This golden image of Hollywood. I think it just really...
It's a story that speaks to our deepest fears.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder that even in the brightest of places, darkness can lurk.
So after all this time, after all the investigations and theories, do you think this case will ever be solved?
It's hard to say. I mean, stranger things have happened.
Right.
But with each passing year, it becomes less likely.
But maybe, just maybe, there's some piece of evidence out there that's just waiting to be discovered.
Or maybe someone out there knows something and they'll finally come forward.
And give Elizabeth Short and her family the justice that they deserve. It's a case that continues to haunt us.
It does.
And I think it's a reminder that some mysteries may never be fully solved.
Some secrets stay buried.
But the search for the truth. So that's what keeps us coming back to these stories again and again.
That's the allure of the unknown.
So for all of you listening out there, what do you think happened to Elizabeth Short? Could the Black Dahlia case ever be solved?
Good question.
Is there someone out there who knows more than they're letting on?
That's a thought, isn't it?
Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
And until next time, keep digging.
Keep those eyes peeled and those...